Welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, nationally and internationally known as the Money Lady, with over 37 years in the fields of money and banking. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce my next guest for the next hour. She will be talking about the world of entrepreneurship and business. And of course, that is near and dear to my heart. And this woman is just a wealth of knowledge and information. So I encourage you, as my viewer, to sit down, invite your friends, call them, tell them Michelle's on television with another amazing show. My guest today is Barbara Hayde, and she is the CEO of the Entrepreneurship Center in Dayton, Ohio. And again, phenomenal woman, awesome information. Without further ado, I bring you Barbara Hayde. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. I mean, you are doing my passion, which is business ownership. Tell me a little bit about yourself and about your center.
I have been with the center. In fact, I wrote the original business plan for the center 13 years ago.
13 years.
That's
my
right.
goodness.
And we are a business technology incubator, which means that we differentiate ourselves in that we want to incubate technology businesses. And that can mean a technology-enabled business as well as a high-tech business where we even have someone who is truly a rocket scientist. He does work in that area, and he does not work in anything less than Mach 5, which is pretty fast.
That's very fast.
So we have some very interesting, wonderful PhDs in the building who have done wonderful research, and as a result of that, they are commercializing their research and have started a business. We always say that when people ask me what I do, I say I take people who have a very expensive hobby and I turn that hobby into a business with them.
That's amazing, that technological aspect. But do you also work with just people that have a passion for other things?
Our tagline for the Entrepreneurs Center is "you can get there from here." And what we mean by that is that whatever your there is, whether it's to have your name on the side of a building or it's to have the biggest server town in the Midwest, it is our job to help you to get there. And the here part, starting from here, you do not have to be a tenant in our building in order to get our services.
Really?
Yes, and we also have an SBD center in the building, which is the Small Business Development Center at Tech, and they counsel anyone who wants to start a business. So if you want to start a bakery or a barber shop,
they're available.
They're available to you, and their services are free of charge.
Are you serious?
And we do that with certified business advisors. These are people, you mentioned your background in banking. The individual who is my executive director for the SBDC, her name is Patricia Newcomb. And Pat has years in the banking business. So she's very familiar with that side. But she's a real student of how to start a business. So she knows very much about that. And so if people just need to call and make an appointment with her, and she will work with you and do whatever it takes to get you going. So we are able, because of her presence there, to play both in the technology area as well as what I refer to as all others.
Well, let me ask you this, because you pointed out an interesting statistic that I found almost unbelievable about the number of new businesses in comparison to adventures.
Yes. There are more people who start businesses in the United States then get married or have babies.
That is absolutely incredible.
And it's true. I used that in a speech that I gave to a group, and someone challenged me on that, and I said, go check it out, and he did, and he got back to me, and he said, you are most definitely right about that. And it is the small business that has gotten us out of every recession that the United States has ever had, and every depression. And it is not large corporations who are creating jobs these days. It's the small business person who is.
Well, I absolutely believe that this country has a history of a land of opportunity for business. We always think of it as a place for immigrants to come, but I tell people they're immigrating into the United States so that they can have the opportunity to start their own businesses.
And that's so true. It's even more true in our region because,
really?
Yes, we have a history of invention. More inventions, more patents have come out of this region than in any other place in the United States. And we all know, of course, about the airplane.
Yes.
But the ice cream cone, the step ladder, the flip-top can, there is the self-starter, Kettering self-starter, things that have revolutionized their particular industries. That has come out of here. And I always say, I think that's in our DNA, to be innovative and creative. And the best part about it is that there are all kinds of services available in our region for people who want to start a business. You know, when I wrote the business plan for the Entrepreneurs Center, I put in there that because I was a one-man band,
okay,
that I was going to have to rely on a lot of volunteers. And in the business plan, it said that volunteers would be heavily utilized for the mentoring, the advising, etc.
Right.
And I sort of had my fingers crossed behind my back when I did that because I had no experience doing that. But I was just hoping that that would be the case. And as it turns out, we have over 150 people in what we refer to as our know-how network. And these are individuals who come from every background. They're all professionals in either marketing, finance. We have attorneys, CPAs, people who have personnel experience, people who have supply chain experience. And when we are working with some of our clients, we try to assess what their real needs are. Where's the real pain? And then once we find that out, we call upon people out of our know-how network who will sit down with that individual and talk them through the issues that they have and turn those into opportunities.
I think the fact that there is this service, let me restate that, this service is free. Is that correct?
Well, if you come to the SBDC,
right,
those services are free.
Right.
If you want what we call the tech way,
yes, okay,
you can come in and rent space in the building,
okay,
and we surround you with a whole plethora of services to make sure that your business goes from ideation to growth and sustainability. And if you work with us and our people, that's the result that we both want to get, is your success. But if you are in the building, you pay rent,
right,
for that.
Okay.
You do not have to pay rent or be a tenant in the building in order to get that TechWay services. We have what we refer to as an affiliate program.
Okay.
And the affiliate program is very, very inexpensive. You pay one flat rate for a year of $500, and you get our services for an entire year for that. and we are going to work with you in every way we can in order to make you successful. Now, again, this is on the technology side.
Right, of course.
We also have what we refer to as a business lab, where maybe you haven't quit your day job yet.
Okay.
But you want to start a business, you have an idea, and it's really difficult to think that all through at home or in the garage. So you can come down and rent a cubicle with us for $125 a month, which really is not a lot of money.
That is, when I think about what I'm paying for my commercial space, versus, I mean, that's wonderful.
So we have, you come and you have a space that you can use.
Okay.
Maybe someone else comes in and sits in your space when you're not there.
Right.
But it's
okay.
it's kind of a rotating thing, and we have locked cabinets for you to put your things in there. But that gives you telephone, internet, and all of our services, which is really incredible for the price. But we want you to be successful. We're here to make that happen for you. So that's why we do that.
What you've said to me is so powerful, because early on in my career, I was a consultant with the state of Ohio and worked with them to set up the Women's Business Center in Columbus, and coached and labored with startup companies for many years in the 1980s. And of course went on to facilitate the development of the incubator, the minority and female incubator in Cincinnati, again in the 80s. And starting a business without that support system is really a problem.
It's definitely a problem. And Clay Mateel, who started the Imes pet food company, I've often heard him say that if he had a hot dog stand in the middle of downtown, he would have an advisory board. There isn't enough that can be said for getting people who have been there, done that, who understand what you're going through, to be an advisor to your company. And but the one thing that small businesses, one way to make a big mistake there is people put their spouse, their CPA, their attorney, their brother-in-law. They put people on here who have a stake in their success. What you want to do with an advisory board, and an advisory board could be 3 people.
Right.
If what you want to do is, I always say, this is what you bring to the table if you need a visual. And so you have these skills and abilities, you and your staff perhaps, but you have gaps. So you find people who can fill those gaps for you, whose advice you trust, and whose advice, you're not going to take it all, but at least it's somebody to talk over issues that you have. And you cannot do this alone. Starting a business, first of all, being an entrepreneur is a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. It's
not a business.
It is definitely not a business.
That's for sure. And people misunderstand that. And there are a lot of myths about starting your own business. People think that I'll have more free time to do whatever I want, and I'm in charge, so I can leave when I want. It's a 24/7. It's.
I worked on Mother's Day.
Yes,
Barb, I'm serious. I enjoyed a lunch with my family, and then I went to the office because that's just the way it is.
That is the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
There's an awful lot of joy that you get from the success that you have, but it is definitely not for the faint of heart to do this. It's very difficult.
I appreciate your transparency in talking about that, because oftentimes when I hear people say, I want to start a business, and I just fall out laughing. I can't contain myself. And I asked them, I said, do you have money to lose? They said, what do you mean? I said, because you're going to lose a lot of money before you make any money.
Absolutely.
Is that not a truth?
That is absolutely the case. And another thing that I always say is when you start a business, you may give up working 40 hours a week for someone else in order to work 80 hours a week for yourself. So it's a major transition. And with regard to the money that you just brought up, in the beginning, you have friends, family, and fools who will give you money to get started. And you can work through that really quickly. And then what are you going to do?
Right.
Did you know that credit cards are the biggest venture capitals in the United States?
I absolutely believe it.
People fund startups with credit. And that's too bad.
That is?
It is too bad. But, you know, it is a reality. We all know that when you go to a bank, especially since 2008, that if you go to the bank to get money, you have to prove that you don't need it before they'll give it to you.
Right.
In other words, lots of collateral, lots of backup, because they're not willing to take the risk anymore. And from their side of the table, I get that.
I get it too.
Because they're not in a charity business.
Right.
So having cash flow is a real issue with a startup, and you really need at least 3 years of money if you're going to start a business, and with no expectations of any revenue at all.
And I appreciate you saying no expectation of revenue, because I think one of the hardest things for startups to understand is nobody's going to be knocking at your door.
That's right.
You have got to overcome a credibility gap, because people don't know whether or not you're going to be around.
That's right.
Because who wants to entrust in you their business and you're not going to be around? So people are going to kind of step back and see what you're doing and cautiously begin that process of, well, you know, can I trust you? And the poor little business owner is struggling and like, I need somebody to buy my product or use my service because I've got to pay bills.
Well, there's something, a book that we recommend to a lot of people. It's called Nail It, Then Scale It. And the idea is that you do market research. I can't say enough for researching the market, because until you know if the dog is going to eat the dog food, there's no reason to move forward. So you have to do your market research first. And we have something called Advance to Profit, which is advancetoprofit.com. And your listeners can go on that website, and there is a series of questions that we ask. You answer, and there are 84 questions, but that's not daunting.
Okay.
They're yes or no questions. Like, for example, do you have a business plan? Do you have a marketing plan? What do you have your business case written down? Have you, if you're making a product, have you done this in a laboratory situation? Have you made sure that your product doesn't fail in various situations? So there are all of those questions. At the end of that, you press submit, and you're going to get a grid that shows you that in the areas of technology, operations, marketing, and finance, where you stand in the areas of ideation, incubation, to market, growth and sustainability. And it will tell you, and what we find all the time, is that scientists and researchers come in and they're way out here with technology. They haven't done their market.
Right.
They don't have operations down pat, and of course financing is nowhere.
Right.
You have to take a logical approach to running a business. And if you start in this column and you manage everything you have to do here, at every point you ask yourself, did I get the validation I was looking for? And if so, I can move to the next column, which is the incubation stage. So it's a very easy way to find out where you stand and what you have to do. And that's free.
What is that website again?
It's Advance to Profit. Advance, TO.profit.com.
I'm going to visit that site myself.
Good. You will enjoy it.
I'm sure I will.
Because it's kind of a gut check about where am I. And I used to, when people had an idea, they'd call me and I would sit down with them for an hour and ask similar questions. And then I would say, well, in my mind, here's where you are. But the fact that software tells you where you are somehow has more credibility.
I definitely think it does.
Than me saying that.
Because you're not the meanie.
That's right.
The computer is.
That's right. You know, sometimes somebody has to tell you your baby's ugly.
Yes, it's true. That's good.
And unfortunately, sometimes that's us.
Yes. But better, it's been my experience, as I said, 37 years. It's hard to believe time has gone by so fast. And I remember my father made me my first business loan. He was my banker, and he loaned me in 1982 $5,000 to take me to my next level. And I was terrified of not being able to pay him back, and saying to myself, maybe I should get a job, because this is not a job. This is now a life. And I look back on those years, and of course, there have been times where I've said to myself, you are just crazy. But this is what I'm wired to do. And I really kind of think, don't you, that you have to be really wired to do this type of thing to yourself.
I agree. And you have to be a risk taker.
Yes.
But not a crazy risk taker.
Right.
Calculating risks. And getting back to this chart,
yes,
if you get validation in every stage, it's kind of a stage gating approach.
Okay.
If you get that validation, you feel more comfortable about going to the next step before you get all crazy out here doing something else.
Well, I would like to say this because I want my viewers to know that we're not anti-startup business.
Oh, no.
Not at all. I'm a strong proponent, and I know that's your life. But I believe that failure to plan is probably one of the major causes of business failure in those first 5 years.
No doubt about it.
And there's a residue of bitterness. I've found that in talking to people that have had startup businesses that have not made it, that I can't believe I did this. And you say to yourself, but you needed to have a plan.
Right. And it's also expectations. If your expectations are way out of whack, you are going to disappoint yourself very quickly and become bitter because you had a bad experience. But I can't say enough about getting help. And
that's the key.
That's what we're there for. And you would be amazed at the number of people who want to help a startup, because I bet one day somebody gave them a leg up.
Yes.
And they want to give back, and they know how painful the mistakes that they made were, and so therefore they want to keep you from making those same mistakes.
That, I think, is one of the most powerful statements you just made about them wanting to help a person to avoid the mistakes they made. I know for myself, when I look back, and of course the industry has evolved so much from when I started in the early 80s, and there just weren't people doing this type of thing. They just were not. Things have moved forward.
Especially women.
Especially women, I would like to say that. But Gosh, Barbara, I made so many mistakes. I tell people when you have children, I raised 3 children as a divorcee. Tough, hard, a lot of things, a lot of events I didn't get to go to. That now as I'm an older woman, I say to myself, was it worth it? My children are all very successful, very independent. They'll tell you at the point mom's dragging us to board meetings and putting tents up for us to do homework while she does board meeting. It does create a different kind of a childhood experience.
Yes,
but
it does.
I like the fact that they're willing to give back because it is a different road.
It most definitely is.
So what are some of the challenges today? Because this is kind of a new world economy. We're looking at so many things transiting, so many people out of work that are now looking at starting a business. What would you say?
Well, I wouldn't discourage anyone from investigating whether or not they have a good idea.
Okay.
And let me tell you, if I might, about something else that we do at the Entrepreneur Center. And this is something we refer to as morning mentoring. And this is where an individual who has an idea can come in, and maybe it would help if I just tell you how it works.
Well, tell me how it works.
You, as a startup company, get 7 minutes to make a presentation about your idea to probably 25 people that we've put into a room.
Okay.
And so we take 4 companies each time we do this, and each has their 7 minutes to present their business case. And then they go to the back of the room, and each one sits at a table. And then the 25 mentors that are in the room are hand-picked. I just don't say, just pick any 25 people. If someone is, we assess what the needs of the individual are. If they intend to franchise their idea, I'd like to have somebody in the room who understands franchising. If they're working with the government, I want somebody who understands that. So we hand-pick the mentors that are in the room. After the presentations and they sit down, these 25 people divide up and decide who they want to sit with. And they get 55 minutes with those mentors to go back and forth and vet their idea with these very smart people. We take a break, then they get the people all change tables, and then they get another 55 minutes to vet their idea with different people. At the end of that, the presenters all go home, and we sit in the room with those 25 people, and we talk about your business. And we talk about things like, what opportunities are you aware of that we can pass along to this company? What kind of homework do you think that they should do in order to move to the next stage? Is there someone you know who could open a door for this particular company? And so it's all a positive approach to what opportunities are available. There are some criticisms that we would have to make. For example, if it appears that someone is not coachable, then we're going to tell them that. If it appears as though they haven't done enough research on their idea, that maybe there are 6 or 7 other people who are already doing that, maybe that's something that they need to get into. But it's an honest, very respectful approach to vetting your idea. And we always say we're vetting the business case, not the technology. And I know a lot of people, business case, what does that mean? And we ask you to answer the question, first of all, what's the problem that you intend to solve? Secondly, how are you going to solve that problem? Who cares? Who cares that you're solving this problem? In other words, who is the customer going to be? And the last question is, how are you going to make money out of that idea? And so now you have looked at the, the market.
Right.
So if you answer those 4 questions for us, and then we can vet your idea, you're a perfect candidate for morning mentoring. That too is free. You get a written report afterwards, and we do whatever follow-up is necessary, whatever counseling work that you would need. You can come in with that report and sit down and go over it with us. We do all of that counseling as well. So there aren't a lot of places that you can go and just talk about your idea in a way that you are not going to have to be concerned that someone's going to steal your idea, because I know that's an issue with a lot of people. We're not talking about your technology.
Right.
What we're talking about is your business case.
That is, I'm just sitting here with my mouth open because I am so glad to have met you, Barbara Hayde. I mean, I just am. I think what you're doing is just remarkable.
Well,
and I interface with many, many businesses through networking and presentations and this show and radio and stuff. But the fact that you all are sitting in Dayton, Ohio with this kind of resource is just so exciting to me.
We're one of the best kept secrets.
Not for long, because I chirp. The issue of being subject to group evaluation and positive criticism is absolutely essential for any kind of a startup.
Absolutely.
Now, do you see the market, particularly as 2008 was a horrific year, and we're still not out of it.
That's correct.
I mean, it's still dog paddling all the way. Do you see the notion of a mom and pop storefront retail operation being successful in this fast-paced, technologically oriented economy?
We refer to that mom and pop as a lifestyle business, which means someone wants to start a business to support their lifestyle. They are
Goodness gracious.
They're not in the business of creating lots of jobs, hundreds of jobs,
Okay.
or starting a factory.
Okay.
They're in the business of satisfying their needs for their lifestyle,
Okay.
and raising their family and taking care, and perhaps hiring up to 10 people.
Okay.
That kind of a business, there is definitely always going to be a need for that in my mind. However, the approach to that is not as simple as it used to be. It used to be you had a storefront, you hung a sign out,
yeah,
and you build it and they will come.
right.
It doesn't happen like that anymore. The market research is so essential, and the other part of that is that your way of doing business through technology is so vital. You have to have a website. You have to be on Twitter. You have to be doing whatever, LinkedIn. You have to be marketing yourself all the time, because people don't necessarily know that you're there, and word of mouth can only go so far. So you have to be networking about your business. And the important thing is you have to have an elevator speech when you're talking to people. They'll say, "What do you do?"
One minute presentation.
That's right. You have 1 minute to tell them exactly what you do, what the benefits are to that person, and so they become an ambassador for your business because you've told them the story properly.
I have a question, because you came out of marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that worked well for me in the day was I wrote for the Cincinnati Enquirer. I wrote for the Cincinnati Herald, media coverage, all that. Is that even effective today, given the fact that people don't read newsprint? They type, they do edited, compressed news. Are those traditions that have passed by the way?
No, I think people still do like newspapers. There is a group that do, but like the Dayton Business Journal, they have the newspaper, but they also have blogs, and they're on the web all the time sending messages. These are today's hot topics so you can't do it without the internet, in my mind.
Okay.
But if you promote what you do, make sure that it gets out there and that it gets around. That's how you do it.
Local or regional or national?
It depends on your market.
Okay.
If you want to go nationally, then you're going to have to promote nationally.
Okay.
But I would say you start small.
Okay.
The old crawl.
Yeah. Oh no.
Walk, run.
Right. You start baby steps.
And then back to nail it and scale it.
So does it make sense, given that if you're going to do a lifestyle, maybe franchise?
It depends on what your needs are. It sounds really funny to say to somebody, what's your exit strategy?
That's what I say.
Nobody ever, they go,
this?
gosh, I haven't even started yet, and why are you asking me how I'm going to end this? But that's so important to decide, in 5 years, I want to sell the business. In 5 years, I want to be able to license my invention. What is the end game for you? And then you back it up and you decide, okay, that's the goal. Then I take the steps that I need to take in order to meet my goal.
Well, I will give you some actual cases where people, because they didn't plan for their exit strategy, stayed in an industry that's no longer viable.
Exactly.
And now they can't get out.
They're the finest buggy whip manufacturers in the country.
I'm so serious. Have you heard of those things where people did not plan to get out?
Absolutely, absolutely. And then because they have no goal, it really slows you down. And then the other thing that happens is you start paying attention to the next shiny object. And you have to focus in on what it is that you want to attain and maintain that focus. A business plan is a wonderful thing, but it doesn't help you one bit if it's sitting on a shelf.
Right.
You have to have that business plan, figuratively, open on your desk so that you can monitor your progress and say, this is where I wanted to be. Am I going to get there, or do I have to make an adjustment? And you talked about it being in an obsolete situation with your business. Technology changes.
Oh, in a snap.
In a snap.
Yes.
And so you have to be aware of whether or not your technology is keeping up with the rest of the world. And oh my gosh, is that ever daunting?
Oh my goodness,
to think
Barbara. I mean, after you spend all those years in research and then you find out, oh my God, the Chinese have upped me. Not only
That's
are the
right.
Pakistanis or the Indians or they've upped me.
Yes.
And they're gone. The government's underwritten them and poof, they're running over me.
That's right.
That is so daunting.
And there are other countries who don't even have a word for intellectual property.
Exactly.
And so they have no problems taking your idea and running with it.
It's funny, when I was in China, they said to me, because I asked them this question I said, why do you all counterfeit everything? Because even their gum, they love Wrigley's. It's a thing. And they counterfeit it. I know they counterfeit cigarettes, they counterfeit everything. But I said, but this is so illegal. And they were like, no, it isn't. And I said, excuse me, that gum is, that man formulated, patented, they said, but he didn't create it. They do not believe that humans have the right to ownership of things they didn't create. They said that a bigger force created these things. And the fact that you got it, well, we got it too.
Well, the lesson learned there is to protect your intellectual property.
Yes.
That's very, very important.
Now, do you find that as we move into this global sphere, again with all the technological advances, which you are very familiar with, is this becoming more and more of an issue?
It is, because let's say you want to file a patent.
Yes.
Or a provisional patent, that your idea then is available on the internet.
And they check it. I'm telling you, Barbara, what I saw. They check every day. And your stuff. So is it, I shouldn't say this because I did tell one person, well, you may want to think about whether you want to patent this or not.
Yes.
Because you've now opened it up to the entire world. And standard legalese would always say patent to protect. But we're in a different world today.
That's right. And it is not always the smartest thing to do. And one reason is it is so costly.
Yes, it is.
But we do have a resource in our community at Wright State University who has the greatest library with regard to intellectual property. And the gentleman who is the librarian or the executive there, his name is Rand Rader, and you can go talk to him and he'll help you process the whole idea about whether you have something, whether it should be patented, what the process is, and what direction you should take. That's why I say there's so much available in this community if you have an idea. And we haven't even talked about the money situation.
I wanted to say we must talk about the money situation.
Well, just briefly we did when we talked about the banks.
Right.
I have to say that things are starting to open up a little bit.
Are they?
Yes. But it is a major myth that the government has money to give you.
I appreciate
Please
you saying that.
do not stay up at night, get some sleep. Don't watch those programs that say there's free money out there, because there isn't. You have to have the next latest, greatest idea. You have to have an innovative approach that is different from what is out there before anyone is going to invest. Now think about that from their side. If I have money and I want to invest it in you, I want to mitigate my risk of losing that money.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure that what you have is really worthy of my money.
Right.
Because I might be taking it out of a vehicle that I already have it in that is earning X amount of dollars in interest and give it to you where it could be going right down a rat hole.
Exactly.
So we have to be, you have to have something that is a very good idea. Even if it's a restaurant, it has to be the very best or unique in some way so that somebody is going to beat down the doors to get to you. So, but there are also, having said that, the state of Ohio has what is called the Third Frontier Initiative, and that was a levy that was passed now 7 years ago. It was passed 7 years ago, and it was renewed 2 years ago. And passed.
Great.
So that is taxpayer money that has been put in a pool that is distributed to people who have good ideas in the area of technology. Every region in the state of Ohio has an allocation of those dollars. Our region, that money goes to the Dayton Development Coalition, and it is called the ESP program, Entrepreneurial Signature Program. And if you have a good idea, you can call me and I'll make sure that I'll vet your idea.
Okay.
And then if it's worthy of moving forward, there is some potential for some money from the Third Frontier for that idea.
That's a nice situation.
It is, because we were talking about friends, family, and fools and that money running out. you get into the valley of death about moving forward.
Yes.
So this money is kind of a bridge to help you from, you've already exhausted everything that you have, and now you need to get to the next stage. So there is some money available there, but it has to be aerospace, technology, advanced materials. There are about 8 or 9 different areas that you have to qualify in.
Okay.
But it's very easy to find out about whether or not you qualify.
Right.
And that would be to call the Entrepreneur Center. And our telephone number is 937-281-0098.
I'm going to ask you to say it again.
Okay, 937-281-0098. And that's where you can get there from here starts to happen. You let us know what it is that you are trying to do, and I will make sure that with one phone call, you're going to get to the most appropriate person to talk about it and get some help.
I know that you are an incredible resource and blessing
Yes.
to this community. I know you know this. Now, have you seen businesses that you have spawned actually move in the area of success?
Yes, oh, most definitely. We have, I'll talk to you about one of our first success stories, which was Michael Bridges. His company is Peerless Technologies. He came to us. He was my first tenant in 2000, the first one to sign a lease. And he came to me himself and his daughter, who was working part-time because she was still going to Wright State.
Okay.
He built that business. In 5 years, he graduated from the Entrepreneur Center. He built his own building. At that point in time, when he moved out, he had 35 employees.
35.
Today,
Okay.
today, which is 13 years later,
Yes.
he has 261 employees.
What does he do? What is his business?
It's a technology, he's a technology provider, mostly to government,
Okay.
but he's in all kinds of areas. He
Oh,
does.
that is such a marvelous
It
testimony.
is. It is.
I mean, to go from he and his part-time daughter to a serious employment base generating tax revenues, payroll taxes,
Yes.
real estate taxes. I mean,
And he's building another building.
he's building another building.
Right.
So those are revenues for the construction company.
Exactly.
The bank's enjoying that relationship through the lines of credit and the things that they offer him as a successful business.
Right. And that's
Everybody-
economic development.
That is economic development.
Exactly.
And corporations cannot meet that demand.
No.
No way. No way. They're mature and the growth is not going to be the same.
And Michael isn't our only success story. I would like to tell you another story.
Okay, I'm listening.
The company was called Gray Car, and Eric Graham was the principal of that company. And he started in the building. And one of the things that we do with our tenants is to have an annual evaluation of their company, where I bring in, again, mentors and advisors who sit in a room, and they have to come in. The principal has to come in and defend their business plan in every functional area of a business. So they have to talk about marketing, how are you doing with personnel, et cetera, et cetera. And the idea, again, the same with morning mentoring, is a respectful approach to ask the hard questions. Because many principals don't even know what the right questions to even ask are. So we ask the hard questions. We had set him up for his 3rd annual evaluation, and he came to me and he said, I am so sorry. Please apologize to everybody in that room. I got up this morning and I said to myself, I can't do this anymore.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, let's just go through this anyway, and let's see what others have to say about what you're doing. And he told such a compelling story that this group of people kind of took him on as a cause.
Yes.
And 3 years later, he was on the Inc. 500 list. He was a 40 under 40 award winner, and he sold his company for $11 million.
Now that makes me smile.
It almost gives you chills,
It
doesn't
does.
it?
But him being transparent around his sorrow, that is so real.
And that's the kind of culture we have. I always say, you have to tell me the bad news,
Yes.
because there's no good news unless we can help out with the bad news.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we have a lot of conversations where we're doing the victory dance, and we have conversations. I've had grown men in my office and crying. And so we know what's going on with our companies. And because we can't help them if we don't know.
Right.
And that gets back to ask for help.
Right.
Reach out and ask for help, because the help is there.
I know for a truth that with most business owners, the pride factor, which is I don't know who to ask, and my situation is so impossible that I don't think I could get help if I ask. Have you had those situations?
All the time. All the time. And nothing is so dire
Yes.
that there can't be some way out, even if it means it's time to close the business. I mean, that's not the worst thing that could happen.
Well, it isn't the worst thing that could happen, but I think, and this was a powerful piece I got, if you have an exit strategy and you know that the payday is going to come for all that hard work, then it can help you to get through the course a little
Absolutely.
better. Because sometimes you can get myopic with this thing, which is, oh me, oh my, I think I'm gonna die.
Yes.
And I say not you, your business. But that is good. Any women, let's talk about women in the remaining time we have. You got some women stories?
Yes, we do.
Good.
We have a couple of women who started a business helping. They were former school teachers.
Okay.
And they started a business to assist parents and teachers and students to get through the tests that the state tests that have to be taken. And they came up with a very, very simple approach to providing that assistance with flashcards.
Really?
And it was modeled on the test, the state's test. They ended up in about 9 states by the time they finished. But they were just really, really bright women who were in the building, and we were able to surround them with a program, and they reached out, they took our advice, they took the advice of mentors. I had a mentor come in, and he was only supposed to talk to them for an hour. It was a professor from the University of Dayton, and he ended up working with them for about 4 months to put a strategic plan together.
Oh, we.
For nothing.
That's so incredible.
Yes.
But they had a niche.
Yes, they did.
And it met a need.
That's right.
Because those tests are very important today.
Indeed.
They are. And people are just traumatized by those tests.
Yes.
Kids, including their parents.
Right.
So they are expanding from their 9 states, or are they going to keep it regional?
Well,
or what?
they've sold the business.
They had an exit strategy.
Yes.
They got paid.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I like that. You know, as I'm sure, that women are the fastest growing segment of the business community today.
Yes.
But I don't know if they're growing big, or are we into these lifestyle businesses?
It's mostly lifestyle with women right now. However, We're graduating more women engineers.
Oh,
we're graduating
yes.
more scientists in the area. There is not that stigma anymore about women going into the STEM areas.
Yes.
So the opportunities are greater and greater. There are also a lot of organizations, and I can't name any right now, but there are lots of organizations who specifically help women with microloans.
Right.
That's another thing we didn't talk about. Group funding. You
Oh,
can go
yeah.
you can go online and possibly get money online
Right.
by following their procedures, and people watch that all the time on the web.
I find that
And
fascinating.
And if they think you've got a good idea, they'll give you some money.
Yes. I bumped into that through one of my associates, a young man who was, these young people are so smart, Barbara.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, I'm like, oh, help me, you're moving
Right.
too fast or I'm moving too slow. But he routed me to where they were actually bidding on amounts. This guy
Yes.
had birthed an idea and he had taken it through first stage, and people were, raising money. And I guess I'm old school because I kept saying, isn't the SEC involved in this? Are you sure you can do this? Is this legal? He was like, Miss Graves, calm down. And he said, this is very legal and people do this all the time.
And there have been recent law changes that have made that legal.
Okay, all right, because that was absolutely amazing how they're doing that today.
Yes.
I think we're in for some more change.
Oh, no doubt about it.
I'm excited about it though.
Yes.
It's one of the things about getting older is you see that life is full of all kinds of changes, but I have a deep and abiding belief and love in this economic system we're in, particularly as it has to deal with entrepreneurship. I would like for you to give your phone number one more time.
Okay.
And we're going to go on and wrap this up.
All right. It is the Entrepreneurs Center, fondly referred to as TEC, T-E-C.
Okay.
And our phone number is 937-281-0098. But another bit of advice is
Okay.
to visit our website,
Okay.
which is very robust, and that is techdayton.com. TECDayton.com. And I would encourage anybody who is interested and wants to make the phone call to visit our website first, because it talks about everything we do, how to get involved, what the requirements are.
Well, I'm going to put myself on the line and just say that I am more than willing and available to be a resource person as well.
I appreciate that.
Because I think you all have done it. And I say this at the helm of with a woman. That is so, that's just so wonderful. And I really do believe that as we move forward, that there's going to be, again, an emerging group of people. You know, these baby boomers are all leaving the workforce, 10,000 a day. And they've got to use that creativity. Hopefully, they've developed the discipline from the corporate experience to cross that over into some meaningful entrepreneurial experiences. I'm excited about the next 20 years. I think
As am I.
yeah, I think the baby boomers are going to make a mark again. I mean, we made a mark earlier. Some would say in not a good way with hippies and, you know, all that. But I tell folks, but, you know, the Pepsi generation is now older and hopefully wiser. And therefore, there's opportunity there for reinventing and refocusing on perhaps the things that can really, truly make a difference in our world, and that venue being entrepreneurship. So I just think what you're doing is just, as the kids say, fabulous. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you for that.
And certainly you are extraordinarily blessed to be in a very dynamic city. And for whatever it's worth, I still say that Dayton has shown itself to be an extremely forward-thinking and collaborative city that gets things done quietly, because you never read about it until you start doing your research, and then it's like, are you serious?
And we do it our way, and it works.
It apparently does work, because you've got all the patents, you've got all the businesses that are blowing and launching, and I think that's such an amazing statement for a very, very, very wonderful city. And I just wanted to say that I'm not a Daytonian, but I must tell you, I do admire your energy and the drive that has so defined this city. And as I tell Daytonians, stop being a stepchild. You're not stepchildren. You are the real deal, and you will lead, not follow, this next move. So I appreciate you coming on to the show. And viewers, I appreciate all of you all listening into today's segment. Wasn't that fascinating, and isn't she amazing? And please give her a call. Do this before you decide to open up a janitorial business, please, or before you decide to do a restaurant, because banks don't like restaurants. Just telling you now, the failure rate is high. You may be an exception, but it's just what it is. But there's tremendous opportunity, and I would encourage you to avail yourself of this help, because you're going to need help. And on that note, I close out today's segment of The Power of Money, wishing you only the very best today, and God bless you. Take care.